Hello and welcome again to Home Alone. This month's episode 2, about the home buying process. So Mark, today we've got Dawn Pickett from DP Conveyancing.
Hi.
Hello Dawn. And we've got Joe Tuck from Target Property North East.
Hello.
Hello. So do you want to give us a quick introduction, Dawn, who you are, where you're from?
So I'm Dawn Pickett and I own DP Conveyancing. We're based on the Team Valley and we offer residential conveyancing.
Great stuff. Joe?
Well, my name is Joe Tuck. I'm the owner at Target Property Estate Agents. So we do sales and lettings and property management. And we're based in Wickham.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much for coming in today, guys. We really appreciate it.
Well, I think today's around exploring what the home buying process is, and we've got our experts here in the room. So the whole idea of it is that we want to kind of understand what the issues currently are, because we do get a lot of questions from our customers during the process. So we've got obviously the three key elements, which is a solicitor, an estate agent, and we've got our very own Ben Riley here as well from the mortgage broker point of view. So today is very much just around asking questions, trying to understand what the issues are, what things can be done to improve it, but also just getting to that understanding as to what is involved in buying a house, particularly for first-time buyers. It's not something that you do on a regular basis. It's very daunting. It can be very overwhelming. So it's just about getting to that kind of issue and understanding what is involved in it. So I'll come to you, Joe, first. So I'm a first-time buyer. I've viewed a property. I love it. I've made an offer. Offer's been accepted. What then happens from that point?
I think up to the stage of the acceptance of the offer, a lot of times we find when people are ringing us up for a view of a property in particular, the first question we ask them is, are you ready for it? Have you got your agreement in principle? Have you spoke to the brokers? And a lot of the times, I'm surprised still these days that they're saying, oh, we haven't done that yet, but we wanted to find the property first. And I keep turning around saying, you've got to be ready. So why don't you just request your mortgage in principle, go to a good team, like your good selves, and make sure that you've got all the necessary information up front. That'll put you in a much stronger position, because when it comes to the sellers of that particular property, they're looking for the most proceedable person. Now, if you've got your mortgage in principle and your cash deposit, that's going to be you. If you haven't got that and you haven't done your homework, you're at the back of the queue, I'm afraid,
Yeah. So if you have a mortgage in principle, if you're organising, you've got a mortgage in principle, you've gone to a broker, you've got all that arranged, that's in place. What then happens from there if they've had an offer accepted?
So we introduce them to go for after offer acceptance, and that's the point in the process, if you like, where we then say to them, well, we can offer you a referral process with regards to getting a good conveyancing team. There's so many people out there that are not quite as good as others, if I'm honest with you. Mm-hmm. So it's very, very important to potentially have that choice, to make sure that you pick a conveyancing team that are actually respected, those that have been there for a long time, those that are local, which is very important to me, because I like to be able to knock on somebody's door if there's any issues, and documentation submit and stuff like that. So it's very important to pick a conveyancing team that are close at hand, and we will help them to do that. If they've got their own family solicitors, or their parents decide, well, we've used these before, that's absolutely fine. Then just provide me with the information of your nominated conveyancing team, and then at that point we will then introduce the memorandum of sale, which then goes to your solicitor and the seller solicitor, and then the conveyancing process begins.
Yeah. So you mentioned a couple of things there: decision in principle or mortgage in principle, and the memorandum of sale. So the decision in principle, why is that important for a buyer?
Well, because we need to see that that particular person is actually in a proceedable position. We need to confirm, because we do ID checks and we do proof of funding checks before that particular offer is actually even accepted. So until such time as we get that information, then they're not accepted as a potential buyer for that particular property. So we need all that information up front, and the decision in principle forms part of that particular process. So once we've got that, and we say that they've got the deposit and the mortgage provider are happy with them as individuals and they can afford to buy the property, then we move into the conveyancing stage.
So it gives you confidence that individual or that family or that couple have the ability to purchase that house.
You'd be surprised what we're seeing a lot of these days. An awful lot of people have got that decision in principle, mortgage agreement, and whatever it might be. There's a lot of different things. Yeah. We could probably do with narrowing the terminology on the market as well, because I'll say to somebody, depending on which broker it is, whether it's an agreement, a decision, or a mortgage in principle, they're like, oh, I haven't asked for that. Oh, but have you got something? Oh, they give us that. Well, that's the same thing. But just
People coming on the market who want to sell to buy, I would encourage those people to have a moving cost appointment, you know, so that we can assess whether that dream home that they're looking to buy is actually attainable. The second one is exactly as Joe said. Basically, if you want to buy a house, you need to go and see a mortgage broker. There's a lot of decision and principles out there where the clients have done them themselves, and it's a lot of data entry. And in terms of data entry, a lot of people get it wrong, especially for people who are self-employed, people who earn bonus commission, because lenders will take 25% of commission, they might take 50%, they might take 100%, same with bonus, overtime, and a lot of people will just lump it in as total income, and the lender who gives the decision in principle will take 100% of that income and then generate the certificate, which then the buyer would give to Joan, and everything looks hunky-dory.
Right.
The big reason I would say is that house prices fall through is because the person can't get the mortgage, even though that they're presenting the certificate to the agent. What Joe's bought into is what we've instilled into his business is the offer process. Okay, so despite having a dip in agreement in principle, that comes across to us, but we financially qualify as clients. So we can confidently go back to Joe and say, that person, yes, we know the credit's fine, and we've assessed their income and outgoings, and that is proceedable. A lot of times as well that Joe has to face is the best and final offer, which is critical as well to a house falling through, because what we've seen this year is that a lot of properties have been, if there's best and final, the applicant is going over the asking price, and that potentially will trigger a down valuation. Now, what I'm going to say here is that the best offer, the highest offer isn't always the best offer, because if the highest offer is someone with a 5% deposit, if that property gets down valued by 5%, that deposit's evaporated. So what we do is we feed back to Joe and say we think that is the best offer for you, even though it might be slightly less than what someone else is offering.
So if I go in over 10,000 over, it doesn't mean to say I'm in the best place to make.
If you've got a 5-10% deposit and you've went 10% over, that could evaporate, and you've got no deposit after valuation, therefore you can't buy that house. Hence, the client would pull out.
That's a very valid point that you make there, because we've actually had a scenario very recently just down in Lobley Hill where we had 2 offers on the property. Just like you say in finals. It doesn't matter what the price was, but basically somebody was £3,000 more than another offer. But the £3,000 person that offered didn't actually have their property on the market at that time, so they weren't proceedable. So what we found was that the other gentleman who was in at 118 said the price now, cut that out. So basically £3,000 less, but he was a first-time buyer. He was proceedable, thanks to you guys, actually, as it turns out. Thelma sorted that one out. So I just said to the seller, I says, look, my honest opinion, go with the £3,000 less. Oh, no, £3,000. I says, well, the other person hasn't even put the house on the market yet. Will that sell straight away? Possibly. There was an option for me, so I kind of never looked at our own scenario with regards to potentially getting that property to sell. I looked at my client and I said, my advice is for you to take the lesser offer. You've got your buyer, it's proceedable, it's moving, it's in conveyancing now, rather than waiting for 2, 3, potentially 6 months for somebody to sell that particular home. It's all about the right person to buy your house. It doesn't have to be the highest price, which kind of reflects on what you're suggesting there as well.
100%.
Okay, so Joe, over to Dawn then. So where do you come into the process then, Dawn? So I'm a first-time buyer. When do I need to get in touch with you? If I've been in touch with a broker, I've found the house I wanted to offer on, I've had my decision in principle, when do I speak to a conveyancer?
It's normally once they've had an offer agreed. So I'm at the end of the process, if you like. Client would come to me either being referred by somebody, like yourselves or Joe, or they'll contact us via our website for a quotation. If they're happy with the quotation, we'll send an instruction pack out. And in that instruction pack, we'll ask for quite a lot of detail up front, just so that it speeds the process up. And also, we're not contacting them for different things when they're at work and they're busy. you know, can you go and find this? Can you go and find that? So there is a lot of information they have to supply us at the beginning. We ask for the source of funds. So obviously Joe would want to know evidence of how it was going to be financed. We look in greater detail.
Right.
So it's not just seeing the money in the bank account, but where's that money originated from?
Yeah.
So we want to know where the sources come from. Sometimes I think clients can feel it's a little bit intrusive, but at the end of the day, we'll have to satisfy money laundering requirements, and it's something that we'll have to do. So they'll instruct us, they'll supply all this information to us, and then we start checking the legal title of the property,
Right.
which is what we're getting paid to do. And I think there's a lack of understanding sometimes. I think by the time a client gets to ourselves, they've been through obviously the mortgage process, they've been through the estate agency process, they want a completion date from us as soon as possible. And that's the hard bit. We can't until everything's satisfied.
Right.
And I think sometimes they don't quite realise the depth that we go into, that we have to for a regulation point of view. And also, if they're getting a mortgage, we also have to, we're acting on behalf of the mortgage lender as well.
Right.
So if the client said, well, I'm happy with that, it doesn't matter that, you know, you haven't got something, well, they might be okay with that, but the mortgage lender has to be satisfied as well. So the types of things we look at, when we're checking the legal title, things like if it's leasehold property, is there enough years left on the lease? Because that affects the mortgage lending. Mortgage lenders won't lend anything anything between 60 and 80, depending on the lender.
Right, okay.
60 and 80 years. We look at things like, is there a right of way across the pathway to the house? Often there isn't. Is it landlocked? There's lots of different things that
all the things I didn't think about when I seen this property that I thought was beautiful.
Flats over 4 stories,
flats
under 11 metres, over 11 metres, cladding.
All the things I hadn't realised when I fell in love with this property. Now you're there to tell us well, Graham, that's not great because of the access ways and all these other stuff. The detail that I don't like to hear. It's just because I want to buy this property, I guess. So you're there to protect me.
Yes.
I guess in this, you're going to protect me, and you're going to look after the lender to make sure they're lending on the right property.
That's right.
Yeah, in all that as well.
Yeah, and not just that. I think you have to look at the reason why they're buying the property, and when are they going to sell it? How soon are they going to sell it? Because
I've just bought it, though.
Because
there's a chance to live in it.
Yeah, but these are the things that we think about. So if somebody's buying a property and they're only going to keep it for 6 years, or I'm renting it out because my daughter's a student and I'm buying it for my daughter to live in, but I'm going to be selling it in 6 years' time.
Right.
So there might be enough term on the lease at that point, but will there be enough term on the lease when they come to sell it? So we're not looking at just purchasing.
Yeah.
It's got to be, we've got to rectify any issue, because when they come to sell, that same problem or another problem will occur too.
So your future proofing is really for further down the line, because again, it's something I wouldn't have thought.
But just to jump in on that one, I mean, new build used to be 99 years, didn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I used to buy a new build house 10 years ago, and generally the lease was 99. You take a 35-year term mortgage, yes, the lender's absolutely fine, but after the term, you've got 64 years left, and it then becomes.
And you're in that grey area.
Probably unsellable. You've either got to buy the freehold at 4 or 5 grand, or you've got to extend the lease to make it mortgageable again. Because what we'll find is that every year the lease reduces, the more expensive it becomes to extend or buy the freehold, and the value of the property's dropping. You know.
Yeah, so some good stuff.
So that's where Dawn and the broker.
I was going to say. So, like I say, we fell in love with the property, Mark, but it's not just about.
Well, I think it shows as well how, you know, to buy a house, there's a much wider process going on. It's not just about mortgage. It's not just about it's the whole process, and we work together with you guys and other solicitors on our panel, same with Joe, to try and make the process as smooth as it can be for the customer. One thing that we do that is obviously an important part of the conveyancing process are the searches. So we get this question a lot from our customers as well around what are the searches, what's involved, who's involved. Can you give us a bit of a
Like you're talking to a 5-year-old.
So if you're getting a mortgage, it's the mortgage lender's requirement. They require a search package. So in the northeast, there's a lot of coal mining, so you would automatically have a coal mining search because you want to ensure that there's no shafts or mine entries underneath the property. We've had in the past where I think it was in Gosforth, a property there collapsed.
Yeah,
there was a big sinkhole. So that the search is looking for things like that.
do the searches on that one?
No, I didn't do the searches on that one, thank goodness. Then, water search, you're looking to see that you're connected to the mains water and sewage. Is there any private sewers that you're responsible for that you'll have to pay out for? Obviously, there's properties that have septic tanks. They're not connected. So we have to obviously go into detail with that. Your environmental search, has the property been built on contaminated land? We're checking that out. We're checking out flooding. Another one that's just come up recently is climate change. A lot of people are interested now on climate change, and we've got to be able to advise our
house going to melt or
clients.
something like what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Too close to the sun.
But there's lots of issues to do with obviously flooding and
Right,
erosion
materials and the
and
materials used and stuff like that, I guess. Yeah.
and then finally the local search lists any planning applications, any building regulations, any road changes, road adoption, drainage systems, covers a multitude of things. So it's something, not only if we're checking the legal title, but we'll have to check all these other issues that might affect the lending on the property or the valuation of the property.
Yeah, and we know that the searches, they vary in how long they take depending on where the house is.
Yes.
Can you give a little bit of give the guys a little bit of an understanding on that? And why that's important?
It tends to be the local authority search that is the one that takes the time, and it's because the search provider has to literally go to the local authority. They're still not digitalised.
There we go.
So they have to physically go in and sit down and look through records.
Yeah.
And depending on when their appointments are and how busy the authorities are, depends on when it comes back.
I've got a question
It is
for you. Then.
madness.
I've got a question for you. Pre-COVID,
Yeah.
how long did it take you to get a local authority search back? Go on, answer
Probably
it.
a lot sooner than it
Probably or
does.
definitely?
It is now, yeah.
Yeah?
Because there's not many people sitting now in the local
all
authority.
working out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Say no more.
Yeah.
I will leave it at that.
Yeah, I think
Point
so.
taken.
If we look at that, then so we've gone through broker or estate agent or vice versa to do it. Then we've spoke to Dawn as well. How long, guys, am I in this process? So I've saved my dream house. We're sitting in September. When am I going to get the keys?
When everybody's happy, especially from the conveyancing
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
That's
Depends
the
on
most
the
important
chain as
aspect
well.
because they are protecting the buyer's interest
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
conveyancing side. So once the solicitor is happy with everything that Dawn's already explained, that's then when they start to get round the table and decide when completion is best to
Yeah.
occur. But what I would say as well on what the conveyancers do, because it's very important as well, we've seen a number of issues recently which has had to do with boundaries.
Yes.
We've had we lost a buyer of a property that we were selling because they had gone to conveyancing, and then lo and behold, it turns out when they got the deeds for the property, the gentleman next door's boundary actually went halfway down their garage.
Right.
And the poor buyers of the property we were selling, they weren't aware of it. So nobody had notified them of that fact when they had bought that property in the first place.
Yeah.
So that came as a complete not a shock to them, you know. So the conveyancing process is massive. It has to be extremely thorough. And I do know a lot of buyers because I deal with them myself. And the other thing that I would say is communication is key.
Yeah.
You've got to keep your buyer and seller right up to speed, right the way through the process.
Yeah.
I mean, Dawn might say, just like some of the other conveyancing teams that we deal with, I become a polite pest. During the period, I leave them for about 4 or 5 weeks to get all the searches done.
Yeah.
And then we start asking questions, you know. And that's just so that I can keep my buyers and sellers updated because communication has to be the most important thing.
Yeah. I
The whole-
do
yeah.
think that's key.
I think the whole conveyancing process needs an absolute overhaul.
Yeah.
It's not fit for purpose anymore. We've talked about the delays in searches, but people are going in to buy a house blind. Okay, now obviously they can get a survey and it'll uncover things, but stuff like that, Joe, the seller should need to, in my opinion, should be able to provide that before they're allowed to put a property on the market.
Yes.
Before they encourage someone to go and have a survey done, spend searches, conveyancing, because that would then have stopped all of that. And obviously, as an agent, can you sell that property? You know, so you've done all the work, we've done all the work based on how it looks. Solicitor's doing the work, and then it goes because they're not ready to sell the house. They need to sort their side out.
It's a fair point that you make, because we used to have the home buyer survey.
Yes.
So that worked. That was the government's idea to make it what you're suggesting.
Information pack, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. But what it did was it completely made the whole thing dead sluggish, and everybody kicked up a major stink because of the delays because of it.
But I'll tell you
However,
why.
it was a much better idea. So we need something like that,
Yeah.
but just not as strict, if you like.
But
The
I'll tell you
industry
why
are
it was.
working on something.
They are.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're looking at a replacement
Yeah.
system.
But I'll tell you why that is because the home information pack was worthless, because the lender still made the buyer go through the survey process.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's no coincidence that in Scotland, the average purchase takes 32 days.
Yeah.
In England, the average purchase, and actually in the northeast, we turn things around quickest, thanks to brilliant people like yourselves, 55 days. You know, Hackney, we were looking at this yesterday, weren't we, Mark? 180 days for the searches to come back in Hackney alone. You know, Durham,
Ridiculous.
30 days.
Yes.
Yeah.
Newcastle's actually 30 days.
Yeah,
Gateshead,
it's not
8.
Gateshead,
So
yeah.
what's the
Yeah.
what's the difference between Gateshead
Yeah.
and Newcastle, Dawn?
Yeah.
Because they're a mile apart.
Yeah.
Have Newcastle got more people working in the office?
Are they more
Or Gateshead?
organised?
Are they more
their records
organised?
Does it-
better?
it
Maybe.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
It doesn't. It seems to come down to a resource issue.
Yeah.
Have they got enough people, enough bodies to do that work?
Yes.
And I think in COVID, as you said, a lot of people were furloughed.
Yeah.
We had a huge pipeline of properties that were still trying to get bought and sold, and it caused a huge issue, didn't it? Because
Yeah.
they didn't have the people, and that's where the timescales just increased massively.
Yeah.
But we have seen like the average purchase come down, which is great.
Yeah.
We're seeing the searches drop, which is
Yeah.
great. So we are heading in a better direction.
Yeah.
The message I've got to get out is that you should use a quality estate agent, a quality conveyance, and a quality broker, because it gives you less chance of losing the property. Dawn mentioned before, in terms of deposits, you know,
Yeah.
they come to us.
Yeah.
We assess where the A got enough for the deposit,
Yes.
and B where it's come from.
Yes.
You know, if someone doing it themselves will just go to a lender and say, "Oh, I've got my deposit,"
Yeah.
and then they'll get through it, and then they'll be turned down because it's come from a source that isn't allowable.
Yes.
And there's another drop off.
Yeah.
You know, that's why it's so high at the minute in the UK, the drop offs.
Yeah.
As a first-time buyer, what are the costs involved? I'll come to you, Joe, first from an estate agency point of view. If it's different if I've got a house to sell, but if
Yeah.
I'm buying a property, what are the costs involved?
No, so it literally comes down to fees, you know. We operate a fixed fee structure as opposed to a percentage structure, and we deliberate that price based on the circumstances of the sale, if you like. So we treat them all independently, and we look at people's individual circumstances. From a buyer's perspective, thankfully these days they've changed the stamp duty scenario, which obviously Dawn will be more experienced with. But I mean, first-time buyers have got up to, is it up £425,000 on a first-time purchase, which is going to be the majority of people, especially in our area, are going to get no stamp duty to be paid at the front end. So you literally are looking at the estate agent fees, the conveyancing fees, and mortgage broker fees. So it's not a huge amount of money. But I often try to say to potential buyers that, you know, it pales into insignificance. Can I try that again? I say to most buyers, it pales into insignificance with regards to the payments that you make up front, which are not huge because you're actually getting your dream home, you know. So take that into consideration when you're actually looking at the purchase cost of your estate agency fees, your conveyancing fees, the assistance that a good mortgage broker will provide you with, because it's worth it, you know. And again, I say it time and time again, communication is key, absolute key. It's all about transparency and honesty as well. Dawn touched on it before, where sometimes Dawn was saying that a lot of potential buyers think, well, they're being very, very in the same kind of work that you guys do. You ask for certain information up front, but that's to help them people as individuals. It's not that you're prying, you know, it's because you've got to do what's best for them. So transparency from their part, give all the information that's required, what Dawn asked for in conveyance and what the mortgage guys asked for from your broker's perspective. Give them all the information that they asked for, because they're doing it for your benefit.
Yeah.
And then once we get all the information that we need, the process is so much easier, and it comes down to communication. Everybody talks to everybody else, which is why I don't hide behind texts or emails. I'll pick up the phone and I'll ring the conveyancing teams. I'll ring the surveyor. I'll ring whoever it takes, because it's good to talk.
Yeah, I think that's a great point to make. That it's great to have that communication piece. You've got to have that, and we have it with our team as well.
Yeah.
You know, we've got a team of sales progressors essentially who
Yeah.
work with the solicitors, work with the estate agents, constantly update the client to make sure that everybody's informed of what's going on, and that we can get the cases through as quickly as we can to a successful completion. You know?
Communication is key.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks. That's a good discussion, that one, and hopefully somebody's been able to take bits and pieces out of that. If you're a first-time buyer, or you're looking to move home for the first time in 20 years or something, everything's changed. The process has changed. Mortgage brokers have changed in that one as well. So let's move on. Customers' questions and answers. So we've put out there to some of our clients on social media. You might have seen. Just ask them questions. We've got some experts in the room, so it's their chance to ask a question of the expert.
He's looking at me.
Yeah, so we've got some questions in from our clients. So first one to Dawn, conveyancer. What's the difference between exchange and completion?
Exchange and completion, that's a good one. So exchange is where we bind you contractually into the transaction, and at that point we fix the completion date.
Right.
And if you wanted to then pull out of the transaction, then you would obviously forfeit your deposit. And that's both parties.
Right.
Obviously, completion date is the date you actually physically move house and the transaction takes place, and we swap keys. Now, we can exchange contracts a week before, a month before completion, or on the day of completion. On the day of completion, obviously it becomes more stressful, because up until that point, you can't guarantee, you can't say hand on heart, you are definitely moving until contracts have exchanged.
So if you exchange and complete on the same day, you might have all of your stuff packed up. You might have all of your storage costs paid for. The vans are outside, ready to take all your stuff to your new home. So you run that risk, don't you? If you exchange and complete on the same day, that potentially you might get a call to say something's happening, the chain's falling through.
Yeah.
So on that, based on that, would you advise for the exchange to happen in advance of the completion?
Yeah. Where we can, we'll always try to do that. But there are situations where if you're in a large chain and trying to get everybody together to exchange, and there might be one person in that chain waiting for something back, whereby they can't do that exchange, and then that becomes really frustrating.
Yeah.
And it's all about managing the expectations of everybody.
Yeah.
But again, that comes back to we need to overhaul the system. And I know we're going to have another podcast on that very topic.
Another part.
Well, from an estate agent perspective, we let's start that again. Can't think of the bloody word. Encourage. Right. From an estate agency perspective, we encourage early exchange of contracts, because it does give the buyers and sellers just that little bit extra peace of mind.
Yeah.
And because it is a very, very stressful time. We've had pullouts, days to go and stuff like that. So the exchange of contract it's not kind of like we're over the line, but it's a kind of like, oh, thank God for that. And I've heard buyers and sellers say to me, exchanged, have we? Oh God, thanks very much, Stuart, that's great. So it's dead important to try to get exchange of contracts if at all possible.
And it's legally set in stone at that point.
That's correct. Yeah, that obligation is now fixed in stone legally.
Yeah. I think the trouble is, a lot of the time, people want to be in straight away. So you're constantly trying to push the system and push things through, and maybe some people aren't quite ready, and that's why there's not that week gap, which would be ideally to exchange 1 week and complete the next. But people are impatient and they want to be in yesterday.
It's also very important as well from Dawn's perspective to understand that and sometimes a lot of buyers and sellers don't understand. It's completely out of the control of the solicitor with regards to potential fallouts at the last minute. We've had them. I'm sure Dawn's experienced them. It literally is. There are some things that we can't do nothing about. If somebody decides, which happened to us a few months ago, to pull out 2 days before completion in an exchange, there's nothing you can do. It's because people's circumstances can change dramatically at the last minute, as you pointed out just there, because anything can happen on the last day or the day before.
I suppose the wider the chain, the bigger the chain, the more risk there is, isn't it? Because if anybody within that chain pulls out, then the whole chain.
But again, exactly, and again, that's when the offers come in, best and final.
That's right.
The best offer might be someone who's in a chain of 15 houses, where you've got a first-time buyer offering £2,000 less, and that's where the advice from the estate agent would come in and say, well, you need to think about that.
That's a valid point. I think what I'm trying to suggest here is that it comes down to people's individual circumstances, a family situation. Anything can happen, and it's not. No property is sold until it's sold, But I'm not trying to sort of there are very, very limited scenarios where that particular outcome exists. These are very, very few, very, very few. The majority of them, I would say 9 out of 10 or 49 out of 50, everything goes through according to plan and everybody's happy and they get their new dream home.
Yeah.
I've got one here, Graham. So if my case falls through, so say the upper chain collapses and the property falls through, but I've already paid my search fees, can I re-instruct that same solicitor, and will that money that I've paid, will I still retain that money that I've paid to the solicitor? Will I lose that money that I've paid to the solicitor?
Yeah, so it depends on when it falls through. We charge a percentage of the legal fee, not all of the disbursements. But we do charge a percentage of the legal fee if it was to fall through. But our current search provider will honour the searches and they will order them for free.
As long as it's in the same local authority, the next purchase? Yeah.
Well, not necessarily the local authority, no, as long as we're just using the same company.
All right, okay. Yeah.
That's good.
That's good. Yeah.
Ben, can I borrow the stamp duty and add it onto my mortgage?
Yes and no.
Right.
Okay, so if you've got a 5% deposit, you need that 5%. You can't borrow any more money.
Yeah.
You can't go to 97, 98 to borrow for stamp duty. If you've got a 10% deposit, you've obviously got 10%. Yes, technically, but by doing so, you're probably going to get a higher rate because technically speaking, you're going to have a 95, 94, 93% mortgage because you're borrowing an extra few thousand to pay the stamp duty.
Okay. So you would have your deposit and your stamp duty separate. Would be better.
Yeah, your stamp duty rate is payable on the purchase price.
Right.
And you couldn't include the stamp duty as part of the purchase price.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
New build, you might get that paid as part of your incentive.
Yeah.
There's different ways to do it.
Okay.
I've got one more.
Yeah.
Because this is the one that comes up a fair bit, is when do I need to transfer my deposit money to the solicitor?
Yeah. So once a completion date's been agreed, we'll prepare a completion statement. So we'll show how much the purchase price is, how much mortgage you're getting, Help to Buy ISAs, and our costs and the balance that's due, obviously from them. And at that point, we'll send that across and we'll ask them to pay it as soon as possible, because once we've got that deposit and we've got the all clear for the mortgage funds from the lender to say that they're going to be sent to us in time, then we can get it exchanged. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you very much. And that's it. That's the question and answer session over. So I'm just thinking I'll take a sigh of relief there. So we'll have a bit of fun, Mark. The monthly moan.
Bison's a good place to start. What we're finding these days is that, especially when sellers come to the market, and we always suggest you get 2 or 3 different valuations, people can make mistakes. So there's no harm in that. We always advise that. So you'll get, I don't know, maybe one particular scenario actually comes straight to mind where 3 particular valuations were made on a particular property that we sold not too long ago, and they were around about the 350, 60, 70 mark. Lovely house, detached 4-bedroom. And then got the buyer. They went with us, thankfully. We got the buyer into the conveyancing process. They then get themselves a surveyor, a mortgage surveyor for the property. Lo and behold, down pricing by as much as £30,000 to £40,000.
Okay.
So everybody's like distraught. What on earth for? How on earth can 3 qualified estate agents, some that have been here for 20 odd years, can get it so wrong? How come the surveyor seen a similar property but not as nice for 325 that sold 3 months previous? So they go 330. Well, thankfully, we sold that 3-bedroomed, which was 325, but the 4-bedroomed was so much better with brand new kitchen, brand new boiler, brand new bathroom. And that was the price differentiation that we put in there. You can't take a comparable because no 2 houses are the same. And so as a consequence, that surveyor completely destroyed that particular transaction at the time. Thankfully, we managed to recover the situation. Communication is key. Speak to the buyer, speak to the seller. This is the situation. Are you prepared to add? Are you prepared to reduce? Yes, that was a good turnout. That was a situation that everybody was very, very happy with in the end.
Yeah.
The down price.
That's something I guess for us we see a lot of, Ben, down Vals. I think we have ups and downs, isn't there? Sometimes it's more than others. What in that scenario, Joe's obviously come with a solution, support of the vendor, support of the buyer, and they've come to an agreement, which is great. On that one, is there anything different could have been done at the before you done that communication?
Well, there's two scenarios. First of all, Joe, I'd ask, were they using a broker or were they dealing direct with a lender?
Direct with a lender on that particular occasion, yeah.
So they were dealing direct with a lender. New buyer or porting their existing house?
Porting their existing mortgage and moving to our region. Yeah.
Okay. So, in that scenario, the client's got their hands tied a little bit because they're porting, which means they've got a penalty on their existing mortgage and they want to transfer it across.
Yeah.
As they're going direct, I don't think they'll necessarily get the advice they need. If I was doing the mortgage or my company was doing the mortgage, we would then be presenting the surveyor with 3 comparables of recent property sales that are actually registered on the land registry, and challenging that. Secondly, we may ask for a second opinion through the same lender. The options for the lender, because we can present that. So the surveyor can either say, you've presented scenarios that I've shown that I've clearly got it wrong, or they'll just say, be stubborn and say, no, I'm sticking to my guns. Then we would canvass the lender to get a second opinion. The second scenario would be a client who's just been recommended to a certain lender. They use a certain survey firm, and they've come back and we say, look, let's get a second opinion. We would then go to another bank or building society and we would go through the process again. They would appoint a different surveyor, and the surveyor might have a totally different opinion. I've seen it time and time again, because ultimately a survey is an opinion.
And I guess that's going to happen in the market that we're in at the minute. There's going to be some of that going on where there's a valuation and a down val. Thank you, Joe. Dawn, have you got anything to moan about this month?
How's the A1?
No.
The A1's getting better, in actual fact.
Improving. I was there last night,
Since they've moved the Team Valley turn off 300 yards back, it's made a massive difference on the commute from Sunderland to Dunstan. So that's not a moan, actually, for once. Because for the last 9 years, it has been a bit of a pain in the backside, but I think it's improving.
It is.
Yeah, do you agree? Yeah. Ben, anything from you? What do you want to moan about? There's always something. Always.
I might save that to our next meeting, but no, just a little flood in our Chesley Street office.
Oh yes,
Graham would be my
that
biggest
was more
rant.
Marks, I think, wasn't it?
Well, cue to the video of the flood, by the way, and then we'll show the viewers what it was like. But yeah, that was a bit of a nightmare, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was.
Is this why you've moved? Because I seen it on...
No, it was basically we moved because we wanted a bigger space. But
right.
Like literally come off holiday, turn my emails on, and I'm like, what the heck's happened to Chester?
Just as Mark was about to go on holiday, Mark had looked after the whole transition of moving 2 properties, got it all brand new, sparkling, lovely, to open the doors on the Tuesday morning to find an internal little flood situation.
Well, little flood, it was coming through the ceiling. So
as you'll have seen from the video.
But we're in there now, we're trading from there, everything's fine.
So it's all good. It's all good.
And all ends at ends well.
Right, let's move on to the quick fire questions. These will just be for Joe and Dawn, because Ben sat through these on the first podcast, so we're not going through them again. So just a little bit of fun, guys, just find out a little bit more about you, I guess. Mark, do you want to kick off?
Well, yeah, we'll go to Dawn. What do you love about your job?
What do I love about my job? Working with people, working with the public, and I enjoy helping people. So everybody who comes through the door is on a different journey, and it's getting to know them and understanding that journey that they're on. Why are they moving? Some people are downsizing because they've lost a partner, or some people are going to, their dream home, or they're expanding the family. So I enjoy that. I enjoy
Everybody's
the
circumstances are
people
different.
side, the communication, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, great answer.
Good stuff.
Joe, what about you?
I think the best thing about what we do is completion. To see their faces when they move. The individual set of circumstances regarding certain buyers and sellers are actually quite broad. And then, for instance, for a lady over in Wallsend, she put her mum like 200 yards from where she lives because she literally was 6 miles away. And the two of them together on that day was just, it brought a tear to my eye.
Yeah.
Simply because she was like, thank you very much. Her mum was crying, she was crying, I was crying. Everybody was just over the moon because of that particular completion, And it happens a lot like that, where people just, it's nice to see them get in on the day. And one thing we do here as well is we don't say, come and pick the keys up from the office. We'll meet you on the day. Myself or Kaylee will actually come to the house, we'll meet you on the day that you move in, and we'll help you move in. We'll give
So,
you...
Dawn, what motivates you then? Every day, I don't know how long you've been doing this job, what motivates you to keep going?
What motivates me? I think what motivated me to open the firm was to try and improve the whole experience, the conveyancing process. I've still got projects that I wanted to do regarding customer journey and customer experience. So that's what motivates me to do a better job and to improve it. Yeah.
Fantastic, aye.
Joe?
I think it's pretty similar because we're in the similar business of helping people, if you like, from a buying perspective and selling and whatever you. And I think it is just that. It's allowing ourselves to help people and seeing the end result. So yeah, you've done what you've done, which has enabled that person to make that wonderful move, which makes them so much happier to be in that position that they're in now.
Great stuff.
Fabulous.
Mark, final
Final
one?
question. So what advice would you give yourself at 16?
16, that is, Joe. Can you remember
16.
that far back?
Well, that's the opposite of what I had now.
Aye.
Because I've got the numbers the opposite way around.
I can't wait to hear the 16-year-old Joe, like, come on then.
I remember it's on camera and it's gone to the whole of the world in the northeast here. So, what advice would you give yourself at 16?
Well, don't, yeah, so I'll not be explicit about it. At 16, what I would say now, knowing what I know now, is learn. Get something that you're passionate about and stick to it. Because I've kind of like floated around a number of different things in my life, as you know, from a working perspective.
Can I ask a 16-year-old Joe, would a 16-year-old Joe be an estate agent for his whole life?
Probably
He
not.
had a great career at Rolls-Royce.
Probably not at 16.
Yeah, but would that be...
I was a professional
would you-
footballer at 16, that's where I was heading.
Would you bring it forward?
Yes,
agent's
that's what I'm trying to
experience?
say. Learn. Get a passion and stick with it.
Yeah, agree.
Good stuff. Dawn?
Mine would be to marry a millionaire.
That's really multi-millionaire these days. A millionaire wouldn't
Still,
would
there's
probably
still
last.
time, Dawn.
Still time.
No, on a serious note, I think just to tell myself anything's possible. If you put your mind to it, anything is possible.
Yeah.
And I think if you have a belief in something, then that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I think you can say that around the room if we look at the guests, Mark. We've got Ben, who didn't start on his journey at setting up a mortgage brokerage. Started out in his bedroom at one point in his life 15, 16 years ago, Ben. And look where this is now. You've said the same yourself. You've done the job, and then you've gone off and done to make it better,
Yeah.
I guess, and believed in yourself. And Joe's exactly the same again. He's gone to some totally different, haven't you, from where you've been in your experiences. And
Well, I can slightly expand on that. The reason why has been probably can reflect. The reason why I started Target Property is purely and simply because I've been dealing with estate agents for 40 odd years.
Yeah.
I bought my first house in 1982 and rented it out in 87. So from that's been a long journey of me during my professional career
Yeah.
as an engineer. I've also bought and sold, flipped and rented
Yeah.
and done all that. So I've dealt with an awful lot of estate agents, some good,
Yeah.
but most of them not so good at all. And then
Some
I think
improvement.
I got to the point in my life when I just thought to myself, I can do better than that.
And that's
And
against
by the
that
way,
for all-
I mean,
all through.
credit where it's due to both of you. You know, 5-star service
Yeah.
Dawn offers.
Yeah.
Not many solicitors can boast of that. And obviously, just won an award, Joe. You
Yes.
know,
I didn't want to
incredible.
put that on here.
No, I think
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
you
no,
know,
no.
Yes, I mean, well, I mean, winning an estate agency award and then getting Rightmove to tell you that you've sold the most houses in a particular postcode in the second quarter between April and June was also a very, very nice
no, you should
surprise.
be absolutely.
And I think me area manager for Rightmove was probably just as surprised as what we were, to be honest with you.
No.
How the hell can you beat Sarah Mains and Keith Patterson? We did. We sold more properties than them, big fellas.
I think what comes out of this though is the fact that we're all passionate about what we do.
That's
and
the
we're
word,
all-
passionate.
Yeah, we all
Yeah.
want to do a good service for our customers and clients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think on that note, it's a perfect time to wrap up. Really.
Yeah, thank you very much. So thanks again, Dawn. Thanks again, Joe. Thank you, Ben, for your time. Mark as a co-host there. So thank you very much. And our little producer there, Ben, that you don't see in front of the camera, but he is behind the camera doing a sterling job. So we'll get this episode out live. So thank you very much, guys. Been very, very good fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.